So I'll call the meeting to order. First item on the agenda is agenda approval. Do any board members or any staff feel the need to reprioritize the agenda? Okay, so I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda as presented. See John, second by Gavin. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any announcements, Tim or board members?
No announcements other than just a note toward the retiring times that was just put out. I think Bill shared it with all board members, and so I just commend folks to take a look at that. It was a real great effort by the team here.
Okay, great. And that brings us to approval of minutes of the May 7th, 2025 meeting. If everyone's had a chance to look those over, I would entertain a motion to approve as presented. John, I see in a second. Second by Gavin. All those in favor of approving the minutes of May 7, 2025, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Perfect. Was that a question, Kim? Well, that was an aye. Perfect. All right. Okay, that brings us to public comments. I see a very small second dot in the room at the treasurer's office. I don't know if that's a staff or public because I can't see on my screen. I see
that's Brianna in the treasurer's office with Bill.
Perfect. Okay. And I see Emily on the Teams link. Emily, are you here for a public comment or just lurking?
Yes, I am.
Okay. So I will say just a reminder that it's a public meeting and not a meeting of the public. So for board members, we're here to listen and not necessarily engage. And with that, I will turn it over to you, Emily.
Thank you, Chair. Hi, everyone. My name is Emily Heyman. I attended the meeting in April and also met some of you in person at the May meeting, where I learned more than I ever wanted to possibly know about all of the programming and responsibilities of the board. This is my second time with public comment, and I'm here with a very specific request. My request is to change my retirement plan from defined contribution to defined benefit, and I am requesting a written decision of the board. Please refer to my letters of March 25th and April 15th for more detail. There is a second item in that request to use your authority to allow existing municipal employees with a defined contribution plan to choose defined benefit in lieu of their prior selection and to place that matter on an upcoming agenda. I do want to be clear that there are two items to my request. One is a written decision on a change for myself, and two, for the board to consider your authority to make this change given the clear and plain language of statute. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Emily. Well, I'm going to move us along to the disability recommendations. We will take those in order. Tim, a question for you. Do you see any need for executive session on any of these three? And I'll ask the board members that as well, but I'll just give you the first crack at that.
I didn't. Brianna is here to the extent there are any additional questions, but in my review, I did not see a need for that, but I'll defer to board member questions should they have any.
And I would like to start by saying it's great to see these come through with 3 signatures, and thanks, Tim, for all your hard work in getting the medical review board fully staffed.
I'm going to turn that thanks over to Brianna. She was the driving force there.
Perfect. So board members, I can go through these in order. If folks would like an executive session to discuss the particulars, we'll have Justin walk us through the verbiage of that. But the first is a disability recommendation from the Medical Review Board for Ms. Fournier. Any board members want to enter executive for that? Or if not, would anyone like to make a motion to accept the recommendation of the Medical Review Board? ahead, John.
Morgan,
Yep.
Morgan, just before, I'm happy to make that motion. But just to speak to it briefly, I'd love an explanation of, as a new member, I'd love an explanation of the Medical Review Board and what that is and how it's appointed and what their kind of, what their role is. That would be really helpful before we
Okay.
vote.
Yeah, I'm happy to turn that over to Tim or Brianna, and we can stay in open session as long as we're not going to get into any specifics.
Sure. Maybe Brianna, if it works, I can take the first crack at it and you can help me out on any of the details. So in order for the board to, so one of the options, let me step way back. We have normal retirement, early retirement, disability retirement as ways that one can earn a pension from the system. The normal and early retirement are pretty self-explanatory. They're just the sort of, once you reach the certain age, service requirements, you can draw a pension benefit. But there's this other benefit provided by our system of disability retirement. In order for the board to grant a disability retirement, there's a first step that must take place per statute. And that is that the Medical Review Board has to do sort of the paper review of the medical records of the individual to determine whether or not that individual meets certain criteria. Are they incapacitated from their work? Is it likely to be permanent? Those kind of things that aren't really exactly your expertise, but are more going to be the expertise of 3 physicians. All 3 of our systems, the state, teacher, and municipal systems, have similar language where the respective boards designate 3 physicians to be a medical review board. So when a new physician comes on, we bring them to each board, and then that board will appoint them to the medical review board. So we do that for I guess theoretically you could have your own medical review board. The state system could have its own, but as a matter of, efficiency, we have all the boards entertain the same doctors for the medical review board. And so what happens is someone, provides their medical records and, everything that's required by the statute. And Brianna organizes that program. And the first step she does is she brings it to the medical review board. They meet, having been appointed by you and receiving a stipend for each case that they review, they meet monthly to make that first level review. Does the person meet these sort of medical requirements for a disability retirement? The second step in that is because the statute speaks in the language of that the board can retire someone on a disability retirement, the recommendation of the medical review board comes to you. That's sort of where your role comes in. We have been looking at whether or not that's something we can delegate to staff or find a more efficient way, because to be honest, once at least as I've seen this applied over the course of many years in this role, the board level review, I think, is more in the manner of a supervisory high level. Does anything look amiss here? The real sort of medical evaluation of the individual is and should be with the medical review board. So, that's the overarching, but it's a somewhat cumbersome process. I think Brianna has really streamlined it over the past few years. And I imagine your question is coming from the place of like, well, what is my scope of review here? It's one that you know, we haven't really found a way to make more efficient without going the statutory route, which can then open up its own huge can of worms. So this has been a sort of a level of review that has worked. It may not be the most efficient, but and at the same time, it gives you guys a check on, you know, hey, are we issuing too many of these? Is this something that's, you know, getting, you know, each one that is being approved? That's the high point.
Yeah, that's really helpful, Tim. Thank you. That's exactly what I was looking for. I did have a question about like if person doesn't agree with the medical review board's determination, does
Yeah.
that then, okay.
No, sorry, I should have
Yeah.
gone down that road. There's two routes of appeal so you're not going to see anything that the medical review board has not approved, and there are some that they have not. In the event that a medical review board does not approve, they have two avenues of appeal pursuant to board issue procedures: a type 1 and a type 2. Type 1 appeal is kind of what you would think of as a reconsideration. So the medical review board might say, you know, the documentation just isn't here to support this claim. And so they may deny it. And then the person can say, you know, I want a type 2 appeal. And oh, by the way, I didn't give you all the records. Here's a bunch more records that show and would establish the condition. And then the board can the medical review board can reconsider its decision. And then it would come to you for that check. The type 2 appeal, we every year have an independent hearing officer that we use. Right now it's Adam Powers from Powers and Powers in Middlebury. And the statute provides this independent hearing officer level of review. So if the medical review board says no, the person can make this type 2 appeal, and then it's more like a contested case. I think it's the only place in our statutes, Justin, you can correct me wrong, where we do have contested case procedures. It's the only issue that the statute affords that. And then Justin will defend the medical review board's decision in front of the independent hearing officer, and the decision of the independent hearing officer will be final. And then from there, there's a route of appeal directly to the Supreme Court, if I'm not mistaken. So it doesn't pass go of the Superior Court level. It goes right from the independent hearing officer to the Supreme Court.
Great. Thank you, Tim. That's really helpful.
Great.
And so is somebody interested in making a motion to accept the recommendations of the medical review board for Deborah Fournier? See, John, is there a second? Second by Gavin. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Right. Next up is a disability recommendation for Linda Peters. Do any of the board members feel the need to go into executive session over this one? Seeing a lot of no's, I would entertain a motion to accept the disability recommendation of the medical review board for Linda Peters. So Gavin on there, is there a second? Second by Kim. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, and then the last one, disability recommendation for Catherine Warner. Board members, any need to go into executive session on this one?
No.
So then I would entertain a motion to accept the disability recommendation of the medical review board for Catherine Warner. I see Gavin and a second. Second by Kim. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. That brings us to any other business to come before the board. And just to cycle back to the earlier public comments, say that my my understanding is that this is a legislative matter, unlike the issue that we dealt with earlier in the year from the person from Newport who had requested a similar but almost exactly reversed issue, and I don't see a role for the board here at this time. There may be in the future if the legislature does contemplate going back to a similar bill that they did that Ms. Heyman referenced in the past. But what I will tell the board is I'll find some time in the next couple of months to cycle back with Tim and Justin and just check my thinking, and then we can go from there. And then Tim, are you feeling right now, do we have a heavy July meeting or an anything July meeting? I know this one was really just probably would have punted to July if it wasn't for the disability recommendations. I don't know what you have on tap for July for us.
Brianna, do you know if we're expecting any disabilities in July for the municipal system?
No, I don't have any for July for Muni.
Okay, I'm not thinking initially that there's a heavy July. I've been in touch with our actuaries and we've talked about before we did our recent contributions increase, we were getting early looks at a crossover analysis because we were concerned that we were getting close. I think we're feeling right now that we're not as tight given the recent rate increase package. So we're gonna, my discussions with the actuaries, we've decided to hold off on that, save a little money. We always perform that in the fall. The purpose of the spring was to get an advanced look if we thought we were gonna have to make some moves. I'm not seeing that right now. I'm feeling reasonably comfortable. I'm knocking on all sorts of wood and the markets can change in a day, as we all know. And right now is the critical time of year as we approach June 30th. So that's a typical item for this time of year that I don't think we'll need to do. And I'm not seeing a heavy July, probably not prepared at this time to recommend canceling it. And I'd like to maybe take a week or two and see if there's anything that we need to bring to the board, but would certainly entertain that possibility if we can.
Absolutely. So keep an eye on email, folks. And with that, I hope everyone has a great beginning to their summer next week. Finally here. And possibly we will see you in July.
Chair, could I make a comment before the meeting concludes?
Certainly.
Yes, if the July agenda is going to be light, I would request that my matter be taken up rather than deferred to months later down the road when you could have, busier agenda items. Take advantage of the light agenda in July. And I would also like to comment that I did not appreciate the term lurk at the beginning of the meeting because this is a public meeting and anyone from the public is allowed to attend. Thank you.
All right. With that, is there a motion to adjourn? Kim, and I'll second that. All those in favor of adjourning, please say aye.
Aye.
See you all possibly July 15th. Take
Thanks,
care,
everyone.
Thank you.